This is the place to find yourself.
Istanbul offers great universities and the lifestyle is really amazing here.
So I live at the dorms at Maltepe University and I'm really happy with it. There's a cleaning service every few days and then there's the library nearby which is open 24/7.
My first impression when I came was like, it's huge. You have everything in one place.
When you first come to Maltepe University, you don't know where what is and you're like, oh my God, I need help. Guess what? You're not alone. There is the international office people over there. They're like family. They're very helpful and they're always there for you.
Istanbul is the perfect mixture between ancient and modern. Coming into this city helps me discover myself, learn about so many different cultures, learning about the world, which will help me in writing future books.
At Maltepe University, we have a lot of research centers. Because of that, we have the ability to participate in a lot of international projects.
Here at Maltepe University, the education consists of both practical and theoretical. We get the opportunity to practice everything we learn in class in real life. So after we graduate, we have a degree and we can work all over the world.
People come to Istanbul all the time, but what they really miss when they visit are the antique shops, which contain thousands of years of memories and also a thread of the modern future.
I like to use every minute and just get out and hop on the ferry and just go from the Asian side to the European side and just enjoy the wonderful weather with the wonderful Bosphorus behind me and just enjoying the moment of Istanbul.
Istanbul is very beautiful with great culture.
This city is the symbol of diversity. Come and study at Maltepe University.
Come here and feel like you're home.
Hello everyone, I'm Pınar. I will be the moderator of this session. Welcome to the third session of our Congress. If you have any question about the presentation, write them in comment section. When the presentation is over, I can pass your question to the presenter. And now I inviting Yoshina Soni, Sai Sre Suruti Alluri, Saad Nil Anand to give their presentation. Will talk about the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on human rights. Can you open your microphone?
Is the screen visible? So, hey everyone, I am Swapnil Anand, and it is an immense pleasure to be a part of this Congress along with my fellow partners Yashna Soni and Shruti Alluri. We'll be capturing the volatility of the impact of COVID-19 on human rights during the course of this pandemic. Our study mainly focuses on India. India recently accounted for nearly half of the COVID cases worldwide. So our study will focus on the gray areas due to which human rights violations were caused in India. Yeah, the pandemic highlighted the significance of human rights beyond the shadow of a doubt. While certain human rights were violated as a precautionary measure to slow down the transmission of the virus, unlawful human right violations were also witnessed throughout the course of the pandemic. Human rights such as right to life, right to education, and right against exploitation, along with right to equality, was violated every now and then. India recently accounted for nearly half of the coronavirus cases worldwide. While people are close to liberation from this terrible pandemic in countries like Australia and the US, India is dealing with a catastrophic second wave. The study will analyze the gray areas that could be attributed to the worsening of the situation. Let us start with the lockdown and unlock of the economy. The lockdown model that was adopted by India was borrowed from European nations such as Italy and UK without considering the ground reality of India along with demography of India. After three extensions, uh, the lockdown was total for a period of 68 days. The government was posed with the challenge of unlocking the economy after 68 days of lockdown. The strategy that was adopted by the government could easily be attributed with the white noise, as it lacked the pattern and rhythm to yield the desirable outcomes. The lockdown could also be considered as an impromptu strategy. As we can see through this graph that in most of the countries like Italy and UK, like the lockdown was imposed when the case was rising, and it was the unlock of the economy was subsequently done when the tally of cases were considerably lower in quantity. So, if we focus on the graph of India, we could see that the lockdown was imposed when cases were significantly low as compared to the cases of other country. While when the unlock was imposed, the cases upsurged at 96,000, around 96,000. Cases were upsurging at around 96,000. Due to this impromptu strategy, people were left vulnerable to virus exposure. The impromptu strategy also caused a dilemma for the lower economic strata. If we focus on the data in this graph, we'll see that the unemployment rate during April upsurged to 23.5. People across different sectors like software and retail lost their jobs at a rapidly falling rate due to this strategy. Let us also focus on the another issue that was highlighted globally, the migrant labor crisis. Due to the sudden lockdown, a catastrophic migrant worker crisis was unfurled in India. Due to this sudden lockdown, the migrant workers that work in different part of country were left stranded at far from their home in major cities. Migrant workers tend to move from city to city in search of work. They are mostly daily wage workers. So, as a result of lockdown, they lost their jobs, and economic deprivation triggered a mass homeward exodus of migrant workers. Absence of transportation forced them to begin long treks back home. During the course of the long treks, they were denied proper healthcare, nutrition, housing, and sanitation. There were instances of police brutality on the migrant laborers also. The negligence from the government could easily be observed by the fact that the government had no data of migrant workers, those who might have died during the course of the homeward exodus. The subsequent issues shall be presented by Yashna. So, Yashna, you can begin with your issues.
For a country like India, which already has a history of xenophobia, the pandemic acted as a fuel to the fire. Ambiguity over the nature of the virus, coupled with rumors and misinformation, has resulted in upsurge in instances of discrimination. Let's talk about the Tablighi Jamaat debacle. Tablighi Jamaat is a global missionary movement who held a gathering in Nizamuddin Markaz in the national capital of India. After the WHO declared COVID-19 a pandemic, the dread about the virus spread rapidly throughout the country. Delhi CM Arvind Kejriwal announced that no religious, social, or political gathering of more than 50 people were allowed to in Delhi. Yet the organization did not vacate the center. The organization was repeatedly blamed for spreading the coronavirus by the officials. The hunt for blame shortly turned into the splurge of anti-Muslim attacks throughout the nation. The next is the blues of Northeast. People from Northeast India are substantially stigmatized because of their ethnicity and as they resemble the Mongolid race. The stigmatization of people from Northeast residing in different parts of the country was flared further during the pandemic as they were associated with terms such as corona in Chinese. There were instances of people from Northeast being spotted and forcibly quarantined even though they showed no symptoms. Let's talk about another issue. The Bareilly incident invoked a sense of melancholy throughout the country, when several migrant workers, including women, returning to their homes were forced to take an open bath with disinfectant before being allowed to enter Bareilly. Officials were seen in full protective gear spraying the solution on migrant workers. The incident was wretching as migrant workers were subjected to horrendous treatment because they belonged to the downtrodden section of the society. Had they belonged to the upper class, they would not have been subjected to the same treatment. Let's move on to the next slide. The second wave exposed the fragility in the governance as scenes of mass death was witnessed throughout the country. Thousands of deaths due to scarcity of oxygen disclosed the lack of preparedness again. The consumption of medical oxygen in India reached the country's total production capacity of 7,000 tons. However, it failed to meet the demand as thousands of people succumbed to death due to its lack. Although the government claimed that there was 129% of increase in oxygen production since August 2020, the government failed to anticipate the tempo at which virus might spread, yielding a bad state. Lack of enough tankers in the country to ensure full-time road transport of medical oxygen adds insult to the injury. Let's proceed to the next slide. COVID-19 pandemic has significantly impacted the education system of India as the majority of educational institutes have been fastened since March 2020. With education being a fundamental human right, the urban schools in the country have gradually shifted to an online mode of teaching. The situation for rural schools worsened due to the lack of proper infrastructure support. As if the divide between urban and rural schooling was not already wide enough, the poor in the country are likely to lag further due to the coronavirus outbreak. The inefficient utilization of human capital, technology, and communication could be identified as the bone of contention. Because of a feeble foundation to begin with, rural education stakeholders, students, instructors, and parents have been more concerned about the lack of relief action to preserve the continuity of the learning process throughout the lockdown. The pandemic has also been a setback for midday meal scheme, which is a very important step for addressing malnutrition in India. During the lockdown, around 90 million Indian children did not receive their midday meal. With schools providing social safety, nourishment, health, and emotional support, the need for immediate action must be emphasized since schools are more than just learning centers for children. I request Shruti to please proceed with the further slides.
On the first election day in West Bengal, that is March 27th, the state saw a spike of 812 cases and 2 deaths, which went up to a single-day spike of 17,411 COVID cases and 96 deaths within a matter of few days. Extensive but inefficient vaccination drills were planned, which haven't borne a good result at all. The same idea goes towards the Kumbh Mela, which was allowed when cases were rising at the rate of 1 lakh per year. This also shows an aspect of lack of awareness, which can be seen in the next slide. India is filled with highly religious, superstitious, and sentimental people who avoided a lot of precautions in the light of taking care of a family member or following a ritual. Others just took the pandemic for granted under the pretext of having good immunity. This explains why 90% of Indians are well aware of the pandemic and its consequences, and yet only 44% wear a mask. In conclusion, although it is said to be for the good of the population, the restrictions over the certain human rights were unlawful and proved to be a terror for a lot of citizens. The study discussed core issues due to which violations were caused so that people can describe the shortcomings and emerge as better than before. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation and participation. And now I inviting Alia Lihan Altafani to give her presentation. We'll talk about digital financial literacy in Indonesia after the pandemic, the situation, challenge, and prospect based on Indonesian demographic bonus.
Okay, thank you, Pinar. So I'll share my screen first. Okay. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, I
Okay.
can see.
Okay, so I'll start. Hello, everyone. Good night in here in Indonesia, and I'll explain to you about digital financial literacy in Indonesia after the pandemic, the situation, challenges, and prospects based on Indonesia's demographic bonus. So we will talk about the introduction, the situation that already happening here, and the challenges, the prospects, and the implication, also conclusion. So we will start with the introduction. The Indonesia's government has a unique perspective and strategies and characteristics for dealing with the 4.0 revolution. However, if we study it closely, the effort was still not optimal due to the rising population density in big cities in Indonesia. Also, as we can see from the data, the productive age is increasing in Indonesia by 2020. That is to say, Indonesia got demographic bonus, which are the productive population is more than 500% of the total population in Indonesia. Also, Indonesia's President Joko Widodo compared the Indonesia's index to those of a number of neighboring countries, including Singapore, with financial inclusion with an index of 98%, Malaysia with 85%, Thailand with 82%, and Indonesia still low, considered low with 76%. And other than the financial inclusion rate, the president mentioned that the digital financial literacy was still low among Indonesians at 35.5%, and digital services were used by only 31.26% of people in Indonesia. In the meantime, this can result in significant disparities between urban and rural areas, as well as demographic bonus. If it is utilized carefully according to the strategy, it will contribute greatly to improve of this country. So I'll talk about the pandemic event. So in early March 2020, Indonesia was also hit by a pandemic, and household consumption is expected to fall to 2.6% as a result. Despite declining household consumptions, Indonesia's president confirmed that financial technology services were growing rapidly. In 2020, fintech contributed over 128.8 trillion, or equal to $9 billion on nation's loan distribution, an increase of 113% over year-on-year. And Indonesia, of September 2020, has already established 89 fintech companies registered. Thus, unemployment and social embargo are closely linked to the lower level of literacy. Therefore, digital financial literacy becomes a necessity for Indonesian millennials who will become employees in the future. According to OECD, digital financial literacy is an essential element of global policymaking. Nevertheless, it does not provide an equivocal definitions of the terms. So I will talk about the situation. I'll separate it into three, which fintech current situation, fintech and pandemic situation, and demographic bonus in Indonesia. So, fintech situation in 2018, the Financial Service Authority, or we can call it OJK, blocked 2,591 illegal fintech lending platforms believed to be backed by organized crime groups or mafias. The number of illegal fintech lending platforms reported to the OJK's Investment Alert Task Force has dropped to 694 in 2020. And since no lender have reported illegal fintech lending activities to the OJK, many victims or borrowers have filled out reports about their experiences with the OJK. According to OJK's Board of Commissioners, those who eventually got trapped in illegal fintech lending and investment was not exclusively from less educated demographics. According to their findings, it said that illegal fintech victims were generally groups of not less, but also those with master's degree. And they said illegal victims were generally groups of who made poor funding decisions. One's higher education degree does not guarantee the sufficient financial literacy. And also, I will talk about the situation, finance situations, fintech situation, and pandemic. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Financial Service Authority or OJK Commission has said that illegal fintech and illegal investments has gone increased and spread widely across Indonesia. According to OJK, the Investment Task Force has shut down 390 illegal investment activities between 2020 and February 2021 that are potentially harmful to the public. Within the past year, the task force has shut down 1,200 illegal fintech companies. And also, the public losses caused by illegal investment totaled 100.9 trillion between 2011 to 2020, or equal to 8 billion US dollars. And also, public's knowledge of investment product is even lower, scoring only 5%, as they do not understand the underlying principle of investing and correlation between risk and reward. And as a result, people are easily persuaded by promises of high interest rates and zero risk investment. And about the demographic bonus, Indonesia's demographic bonus periods start in 2015, and last until 2035 with a dependency ratio of 0.4 to 0.5. That is to say, for every 100 people of productive age, there are 40 until 50 people who are not productive. And there's an opportunity here, but it may turn into a boomerang if the government is not prepared for this human capital. And also, fintech players have stated that increasing financial literacy in Indonesia also comes with challenges. Lifestyle-driven consumer habits are the spending habits of the millennials. And also, in addition, the cost acceptance of technological advancements in fintech. In order to gain deeper understanding of digital financial literacy, there are three kinds of work that we must separate. The first one is digital financial literature that is incorporated into digital finance. Digital finance encompasses a wide range of new financial businesses as well as finance-related programming. And also, secondly, we need to understand about digital finance is we can say technology, that is to say that is a subject of crosses many disciplines. We can say that it is a mix of finance, technology management, and innovation management. And also, financial literacy, according to OJK, is a financial educated individual, is a person who is familiar with monetary foundations and monetary items, including advantages, dangers, and as well as ability to utilize monetary products and administrations. And also, I will talk about the situation of the fintech services in Indonesia, which are payment gateway used to facilitate transaction in e-commerce, such as Mitrans, Doku, Sandit, digital wallets, which allows users to save money within the application and use it to make payment to online and offline merchants, such as GoPay, Tcash, and Dana. And wealth management is financial and management services and can act as a personal finance manager, such as Chef Alia in Indonesia. Also, social crowdfunding is grouping people together to pursue a common interest, which are to helping one person. This application is Kita Bisa. And the next one is about lending, is the most important part of lending money to customers. Additionally, millennials want to use credit method when purchasing goods. One example is a Shopee Pay Later. Okay, so next one is I'll talk about the challenge, the issues that link with Indonesian financial literacy. A person's financial literacy cannot be separated from their daily life because financial literate people make their own personal financial decisions. And financial literacy is low among Indonesians, as we already mentioned before. Based on 2019's OJK study, the country scored 38.03% of the financial literacy index and 76.19% of the financial inclusion index, both up from 29.7% and 67.8% in 2016. This issue highlighted by a recent case involving financial consulting firm such as PT Joska Financial Indonesia. Joska, which used to be extremely popular among youth in Indonesia on social media, was recently shut down by the public over allegations of unlawful stock brokerage and as investment in misconduct. There's also another challenge. There's also an apparent difference in financial literacy between urban and suburban areas. According to the World Bank report, most national surveys found significant regional differences in financial literacy as measured by people's knowledge of financial terms and institutions, particularly between urban and rural areas. Especially in third world country, we can consider that Indonesia is a third world country. This reflects differences in access to finance. For example, in Ghana, 52% of urban adults hold commercial bank account compared to 21% of rural adults. Another challenge is income is another factor to consider in addition of financial literacy. The reason for this is that everyone uses their income differently. Individuals with available income are more likely to manage their finances in a responsible manner. It argues in a book that people with more incomes are more disciplined in paying their bills than those with lower incomes. So the next one is I'll talk about the prospect. In Bandung, a study found that financial literacy negatively affects the consumption of millennial generation. According to the study, the amount of consumption will decrease if financial literacy increase. Today, many countries have populations with a level of financial knowledge that is not sufficient for those who are smart in using and spending the money they have. And also, increasing financial literacy is not difficult, but it requires more effort to streamline previous problem with data. GS Lotus et al. Report extraordinary results from the program to improve financial literacy and soft skill of poor and vulnerable youths in Indonesia between 18 until 34 years old. Trainers and students have increased their financial literacy knowledge significantly. It is not impossible to improve financial literacy. As a result, there should be more projects and research on improving digital financial literacy in Indonesia. As the startup industry continues to grow every year, startups are competing to introduce their product to the public, including fintech startups. Digital financial service has made it easier for millennials to access a variety of financial services. This can have a positive or negative effect in the future, like double-edged knife. On the other hand, if we look at the prospect, it is easier for millennials to invest and save, but there are still risks to consider before investing. Therefore, digital financial literacy is necessary. These products are not only beneficial to individuals, but also SMEs. Santar is one of them. It is certainly beneficial for mature small medium enterprise to combine crowdfunding and investment. Wellich and Fernandez also suggest that informal financing has a greater impact on young firms' innovation, while formal financing seems more relevant to older firms' innovation. And the last one, I'll talk about the implication and conclusion. And according to a recent study, millennials will comprise the largest population type in Indonesia between 2015 and 2035. It is considered either good or bad. Fraud and other illegal financial services are also on the rise. So therefore, a person must be able to drive. So, in order for millennials to play an important role, that should be knowledgeable about financial products and services, be skilled at controlling and managing financial digital activities, and also be aware of digital financial risk, and have experience using digital financial products and services. That is why digital literacy is needed, especially for millennials in Indonesia. Thus, there are several aspects that we have to acknowledge in order to increase the digital financial literacy, such as first one is financial education sessions should be implemented not only in business school, but also in medical, engineering, and other kinds of universities. To provide financial literacy training, content must be address basic fundamental concept, which is financial concepts, and provide practical sessions on managing money, planning, budgeting, managing debts, and mobilizing funds, and etc. There's a trend to begin financial education in high school and to provide a comprehensive education during college. And also the third one is policymakers and applied researchers should help identify the missing gap between financial literacy program and entrepreneurship confidence. The syllabus of all undergraduate programs should include theoretical and practical sessions to improve financial literacy. Mock sessions and workshops can be conducted to give first-hand experience on various methods on finance and entrepreneurial technical endeavors. And also, for further research, research may focus on framing policies and strategies to improve financial literacy among high school and undergraduate students. And method of randomized controlled trials can be utilized to identify the most effective way to cultivating financial literacy in Indonesia. That's all from me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Alia, for your presentation and participation.
Thank you.
Thank you again. And now I'm inviting Azra Dartman to give her presentation. We'll talk about proposed business strategy for new building products of XCY company as the new alternative option in Indonesia property markets. We can't hear you, Azra. Open your microphone.
Is that already presented, right?
Yes.
Cool. Hello, everyone. Good evening. So my name is Zara. Maybe like most of the presenter already talk about like a very global or generalized topics about pandemics and humanities and business. Right now, I would like to tap a different prospect in property market and the relation between the pandemic. So it is especially like took one case, one company that initially like it was Indonesia having a potential in travel and tourism, that the company was focused on the prefabricated building products as a focus to cater like the travel and tourism demands in Indonesia. So by making infrastructure such as buildings, cabins, to cater the Indonesia tourism, and it actually like the prefabricated building itself is something that is built offsite on the and then it's just then you can just like assembly that on site. So compared to conventional construction, the prefab construction actually like it's faster, predicted, standardized, and sustainable, and it can be assembled very quick within 3 weeks. So, but the problems here lied on the business issues that is faced by XYZ company in a quarter of 2020, early of the pandemic COVID-19, where all of the projects were postponed, halt, and canceled. Therefore, like the company was temporarily inoperative for operation as of early quarter 4 of 2020. Therefore, like a pivot in business strategy is needed to be proposed. So where all of the projects were all modular and built offsite, and all were tourism based. So the conceptual framework here is to analyze, to solve the problems. The conceptual framework, we're having of 3 analysis from the external analysis, internal analysis, and the market data analysis, where the external analysis is to analyze the the overall, like the general factors. Also, like having a business model benchmark from out from the overseas, because like in Indonesia, it was unprecedented for this kind of business model, and also like analyzing the internal process using the like trying to find the lack of the current business model canvas, and also like analyzing the gap analysis and the Frio analysis of the existing company. And lastly is to integrate that with the market data analysis from last year to find out what is actually like the market demands here, and formulating by having a blue ocean strategy and a new business model canvas. So the key findings here in a pastel analysis for prefab building company and business is Indonesia, from the perspective of political and legal. Actually, like the prefab building is still enabled for bank loan. Therefore, like the demands here is not generated yet. And also, like from the economy perspective, like it has a shifted demands from the tourism to a landed house. So, like previously, like the company was focusing on tourism, and right now, like the overall market demands focusing on the landed house because of this pandemic situation that leads to like that triggers people to have a proper house, a proper dwellings, and from social perspective, this kind of having like a timber structure for their primary house was seen as a skeptical rather than positive, in a way that people is still having a like a trust issues on that. And then from technologies point of view, like if we want to save that to the marketplace, it required building as ready on stock. So therefore, like the key findings here is like we need to change the market, the target, like from tourism to residential, regarding the of the overall demands. And also like from business model benchmark, it is important to have something seen as a lifestyle, like through the marketing point of view, and also like having an organization that is lean and sensitive to digitalization, and also like having a growth staging and disruptive products, in a way to have something transformational, and also like connecting the dot of people that needs landed houses and the problems of housing backlog in Indonesia, having a like new business model that solves that. So from the internal analysis, the marketing was in like the previous analysis, it was really focused on academical, not about the sales orientation. Therefore, like it is needed, like especially in this pandemic condition, that people very get closely connected to their social media. Therefore, like having a social media advertisement is really important here. And also like from operation point of view, because like previously, like there are a lot of obstacles in with the manufacturers. Therefore, like it is needed to rethink in the manufacturing division here. And also like from product development and finance, the fix it is needed to develop building product that really suits the demands here, and also like to tap the sales growth. It is needed to reviewing the external and internal data. Also like in prior analysis here, there are like a confusing contradictory facts, in a way that a lot of the company has a sustainable competitive advantage here, but the economic performance is below normal. Therefore, like it is needed to be reviewed between if rather that those potential is really meet the market demands or not. Also like therefore, like the data analysis was taken here finding that like the findings was there are a lot of market demands where people have a capability of 200 to 300 million idea rupiah. So it's about 15,000 USD capabilities for purchasing houses in a central Jakarta with two to four family members. And it is like the market that is rarely tapped by the general property in Indonesia. And also like the blue ocean strategy here is typing what is needed to eliminate is the tourism market and the prefabricated building services, and what is needed to be raised are the standardization pressure. Actually, like based generally is about the core values of the company itself, and to reduce the action of having a project based revenue streams to product based revenue stream, because like we would like to avoid hassles and unprecedented project retrospectives. And lastly is to create something new in a sense of we're going to tackle the residential market and create the mindset of building as a product. So rather than people build that people order that as a like a project, this is like having a building as a product, so you can order that everywhere, anywhere in Indonesia, with specific market target for B2C and B2B market, with fixed pricing, because one of the problems here lies on the unfixed pricing, and also like the uncertainties between the time schedule and the budget. Also like having an involvement from banking and property development for easy payment and innovation. So this is like having the idea of having a building as a product as a hybrid of standardization and conventional construction, where it has like three meeting points from the market demands of operational capability and the business capacity. Therefore, like this is having a new innovation as the blue ocean strategy. So the business model canvas here is to have is to trigger people to have an awareness to standardization, because like right here, like by having a pandemic, after the pandemic, people is more sensitive to the price and also like more sensitive to the choice that they make. Therefore, like every product needs to have a like a real value on it. And so like it comes with a good, better, best pricing, where people can choose based on their needs and on their capability. Here are the two business models: is having a household direct to customers, and secondly a B2C business to business to business, by having a property business corporation. So ideally, like this house can be built anywhere on a minimum land of 4 by 10 meters, and it has a fixed price and it has like a fixed construction period. So it's all like all in, like people can just it has a choice of items and interiors, and it is ready to be occupied. And here are the choices of the house types, so ranging from 1 room to 2 rooms. So overall, like it is the key ideas here is to have a good design quality, good price, for smart living, because here right now, transforming from pandemic, due to pandemics, the people transforms from their spendings from tourism or leisure to something more about their home and home related things. Therefore, like we need to provide something with more added value on it. Thank you, everyone. That's all from me.
And now we will continue our session with our next presenter, Aydın Salimli. We'll talk about evaluation of the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic to labor force participation and unemployment. Also the case of Azerbaijan Republic.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you see my desktop screen? Can you see it?
We can't see you.
Okay, 1 minute.
Can you open your camera?
Okay, just 1 minute. Sorry for this one. And now, can you see my presentation?
No, we can't see you. We can, your presentation. Yes.
You can see?
Yes.
Okay.
Can
Now
you open your camera?
no, actually my camera doesn't work, but I will show my presentation to you. Okay.
Okay.
If you can see that my presentation, just notify me to stop. Okay, I'm starting that. You know, that again, I must you see that this presentation, yes, the evaluation of impact of COVID-19 pandemic to labor for participation and unemployment was the case of Azerbaijan Republic. Yes. That abstract briefing. Okay, I am starting to talk in my presentation. My presentation was about the evaluation impact of COVID-19 pandemic to labor force participation and unemployment was the case of Azerbaijan Republic. This article is that about that the pandemic of COVID-19 caused great damage to the world economy and especially the economy of Azerbaijan, which part of it. Also, the pace of pandemic has slowed in recent days, and some economic restrictions have been lifted in some countries. However, the effects of pandemic on the global economy are still being left. This article links the relationship between pandemic and unemployment, labor force participation in the world, and focusing mainly to Azerbaijan and the state's approach to these problems. In order to better understand possible economic outcomes, this article explored the real forecast scenarios of the pandemic in the field of labor participation and unemployment in Azerbaijan and globally. And I am passing to this graph that this graph shows that unemployment rate. By the way, can you see this graph or just can you answer my question? Can you see this graph? Okay, just I'm continue. Maybe you can't hear my voice, or just in other case that this graph shows that unemployment rate in 1991 to 2019 years, and in here that you can see that in this place that 2008 financial crisis impacts that you can see the unemployment rate and how does it's going in the world. And this calculation is that forecasting for that in the two scenarios that how that COVID-19 if it didn't happen that how unemployment rate will go up to the 2030 and if in the case of impact of COVID-19 how it will decrease it will increase that unemployment rate in the world. In here you can see that the first line the calculation that that how does that unemployment rate increasing in the case of not considering COVID-19 impacts. The second one is that if you consider COVID-19 impacts, how does unemployment rate increase in the world? And the last, the percentage, the section, you can see that how much the surplus of the COVID-19 to the unemployment in each year. For example, in 2020, it's approximately 13 point percentage. That increase unemployment in 2030 is 2.22 percentage. But I want to mention that it's that numerical forecast based on the data between 1991 to 2019 that source World Bank, but the economical, sociological, environmental factor doesn't take attention in this calculation. It's just numerical calculation. That's why the numbers can be changed, depends on political, economical, and other some environmental factors in the future. And this graphics shows that the previous calculations on the graphs these calculations it's on the graphs that you can see these graphs. These graphs represent the blue one is that the unemployment rate without consideration COVID-19 impacts, that how it will be growing and until 2030. This orange color is that if you consider COVID-19 impacts, that how can we make surplus to typical unemployment in the world, and you can see that starting from 2020, actually in the 2019 it's the same. 2020 it's the increase and some a bit decrease, and it's just going on the surplus to until 2030. Maybe it can be decreased. That calculation is based on until 2030. And this is that graphics that from the McKinsey company. It's that international consulting company. Maybe you know that this is a very famous company. The company calculates that the scenarios that which jobs will be more preferable, will increase until 2030 in the post-COVID-19 scenario. In the blue one, you can see that they take in the head just 8 countries: United States, Spain, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Japan, China, India. And you can see that health teach care workers that increasing also in the most of this country and a bit less in India. Also, STEM professional that increasing most of these countries. Health professional and also business legal professionals are also increasing in most countries. Beside of that, which the jobs will be decrease in this COVID scenario until 2030. In here, you can see the customer service and sales will be decreased in this scenario, that in the United States, Germany, Japan, agriculture sectors, that some type of job in the agriculture, office support jobs in there, and at least one you can see that can be decreased in the most of countries in the COVID scenario to 2030. And this is the graph also from the same company that what's the surplus of the COVID-19 to need transition to new jobs in the world for people. For example, in the United States, if before the COVID, the people were, for example, 7.9% of the workers want to change its work, but after COVID, it makes the some 2.2% surplus. After the COVID, that it makes total 10.1 percentage. That how that people want to change its job to new job, and this continuing in the Germany 1.6 percentage, in the Japan 0.9, France 1 point, Spain 0.5, United Kingdom 1 percentage, China 0.8 percentage, and India is the graph shows that COVID-19 scenario, COVID-19 doesn't so much affect the people's minds that want to change. This changing is the same before and after the COVID. This graph shows that the same point is that 3.4 percentage. Okay, well, the case of Azerbaijan, that how does the process go in Azerbaijan? The Statistical Committee of Azerbaijan indicate that in Azerbaijan have a 5,190,000 that economy 100 economic active population, that 4,900,000 38,500 of them are working. It makes that 4.8% of total workers are unemployment. Statistical offshore resources says that. Decreasing for impacts of the COVID-19, government made money assistance 6 times to 600,000 extra people. Who is the beside of this unemployment people? It's not included these people that who didn't have a job or are in a very low economic situation in 2020. Depends on pandemic. And if we make some calculation and surplus of this number to the typical unemployment in Azerbaijan, we can make that in 2020 the unemployment rate was that unofficial. It's just calculation. It's not the official. That it was the around 16% on the calculation that it shows. But however, the real number says that there are more than half million people, 5,400,000 people that who didn't get any money assistance, and so they don't have any job in 2020. The next slide shows that it's just calculation that I would like to explain that how it's calculated. Maybe this Excel file, you can see that this in Azerbaijan language, that it's the stem structure analyze impacts matrix in the economics, and it's so famous that it can be also using in geography and other fields, and it's okay that you can use in the some implementation in the some you can implement in the other sectors. These are sectors that which sector cause most influential on other parameters, and which concept effect to the most influenced by other parameters. All of these sectors are the which sector had restriction on during the pandemic that people can't able to work on this sector, depends on pandemic restriction. The most influenced by other parameters is that tourism. That in Azerbaijan, that it shows that tourism is the most influenced by other parameters. That this sector is one of the most made restriction by the government. That the job opportunities is the very lowest. That tourism, and in here also you can see the second one is that construction jobs, construction industry have more restriction and affected by pandemic. And the cause is the most influential to others is that it's also recreation, events organization, restaurants, and in this typical industries also cause to more, how can I say it, this on the restriction on these industries made a lot of problems to the related industries, because industries is chain. If you have a restriction on some industries, it also decreases the revenue to other industries. This is that recreation, entertainment, culture, event sectors, and so. In here, that is, you can see that some fiscal policies that some countries respond to COVID-19. I think just that Australia, USA, Turkey, Belarus, that's just example how they respond to COVID. That's some example. For example, in Australia, Australian government totaling 49.06 billion euros. It makes that 12.6% of the GDP, gross domestic product of this country. They made a fiscal package to help the country that to their healthcare system, short-term work arrangement, help the firms, and so. In the USA, you know that during the President Trump that signed that the bill that will that help that $868 billion to the some type of some areas of the industry economy, and it made that 4.01% of GDP, gross domestic product. And today now that the House approved the American Rescue Plan. That it's a new administration, Biden administration, as suggested this one. This also want to help around $1,840 billion. It makes that 8.08% of the 2020 of GDP of United States of America. It's so the great number. Maybe it's the unique number in the world in this huge number. And in the Turkey, COVID-19 was reported the first on March 11, 2020. Maybe the conference participant now, this one, some part of them live in Turkey. And in here that you can see that governments that try to make some fiscal policies, giving that one, for example, India 165 billion TL Turkish lira, that it makes free 0.3% of the GDP in the form of their own budget measures to these sectors. Also, the government also reduces some additional taxes on the food, accommodation service, and so also in the Belarus you can see that the country is the Belarus not so that have some that numbers, but it's also so that they try to public sector salaries being kept or securing part-time jobs in this sector. In the also in the Azerbaijan, I saw that some statistics also in the Azerbaijan that government that stop it to exit the people from the job officially during the pandemic. Okay, thank you for attention. It was my presentation about the evaluation of COVID-19 impacts to the unemployment, the labor participation, and the case of Azerbaijan Republic. It's a support of Azerbaijan, Baku, Azerbaijan, and maybe after the COVID you want to visit the other country. Thank you very much for your attention. Okay, it ended.
Thank you, Aydın, for your presentation and participation.
Thank you.
And now we will continue our session with our next presenter, Rekia Belmilut. We'll talk about the extent of the impact of corona pandemic on criminal law. We are listening to you, Rekia.
Hello. 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 Can you see my presentation? Hello.
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 You are starting.
You see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Hello.
Can your presentation?
My research. Okay. My research, the extent of the impact of the corona pandemic on criminal law.
2020 virus, COVID-19, is a global pandemic stressed the need for countries to work to combat this pandemic COVID-19. But how can Algerian criminal law punish those who violate these procedures? To combat the emerging coronavirus, we're trying to explain the violation of these measures as deviant behavior that might turn into a crime. 2. The impact of COVID-19 on the Algerian penal code. 3. Addressing the various penalties decided by the Algerian legislature for anyone who intentionally harms others by spreading the COVID infection. Research importance, so I decided to take up this research as an attempt to show that it is not only sufficient to spread awareness in order to eradicate health crises around the world, but also needs, if necessary, to impose some kind of sanction if some people deliberately harm others by violating the imposed preventive measures by state authorities. Research limits. Scientific research has no limits. No matter how different is the subject matter, but given the importance of the pandemic on the Algerian criminal law as a microcosm of what is happening in the world as a whole. Research methodology. Through the analytical method, we will present this simplified research in order to offer even view search first the concept of measures to combat the coronavirus in Algeria. President View search first the concept of measures to combat the coronavirus in Algeria. Pursuant to Executive Decree No. 2017 of March 24, 2020, specifying complementary measures of the coronavirus pandemic. View search. 1. Home quarantine. Home quarantine in all or in part consists of obligating people not to leave their homes or places of residence during a certain period, and their movement is prohibited except after obtaining a specific permit for a certain period of time. Closures of shops except for foodstuffs, maintenance, hygiene, medicine, and semi-pharmaceutical. Travelers from abroad have been quarantined inside hotels and tourist vehicles that were temporarily transferred to quarantine places for a period of 14 days until it is confirmed of no confirmed that they are infected with the coronavirus. Or long hours. Within borders were closed after the evacuation of a large number of Algerians from many regions in Algeria. View to wear a protective mask. The executive decree related to complementary measures to prevent and combat the spread of the coronavirus, dated 27 Ramadan 1541 AD, corresponding to May 20, 2020 AD, stipulated that wearing a protective mask is a mandatory preventive measure for all citizens on roads, public places and workplaces, as well as in open or closed spaces that receive the public, especially public institutions and administration, public utilities, associations, and commercial places. The decree also obligates every administration and institution that receives the public and every person who engages in commercial activity or provides service in any way to wear a protective mask and offer public force. Research second, adopting a breed of the coronavirus prevention measures, social behavior, values, customs, and tradition. So we can call anyone who willfully violates the preventive measures of coronavirus psychopath. Therefore, since this type does not suffer from a neurotic or culinary illness, sanction can be are in dangers. Element of the crime of endangering others. The legal element, it is represented in the legal text that criminalizes the act according to Article 1 of the Penal Code. There is not crime, no penalty or security measures except in accordance with the law. Material penal, it is the external behavior that turns the act into crime. Elements of the material corner, criminal behavior, there is represented by prohibited by law or refraining from an act ordered by law, which is represented hereby violating the regulation and regulation that impose preventive measures. Criminal consequence, the mention of infection. 3. The causal relationship between criminal behavior and the result. It is the effect of criminal behavior represented in affecting others with the disease COVID-19. The moral pillar, this element is considered the basis of criminal responsibility for the crime of any kind. If the investigation authorities and the judge were unable to prove intent of the author, his responsibility falls in his suffers from a defect in his will charged as mental weakness or was under duress. For example, or if he did not know that he was infected with the corona epidemic, so the infection was transmitted by mistake. 288 of law Algerian penalty. Anyone who accidentally kills or caused, if it with his recklessness, lack of caution, carelessness, negligence, or failure to observe the regulations shall be punished by imprisonment from 6 months to 3 years and a penalty according to 290 bis Article 459, a fine from 10,000 DA to 20,000 and may be punished with imprisonment up to 3 days. Conclusion that it affects most international legislation, especially with the emergence of the corona pandemic, is one of the most important multi-purpose policy, as it is preventive, precautionary, and punitive. So we found that the Algerian legislature played an important role in adaptation. The criminal code came to the current condition in Algeria, like other countries, with the amendment of the penal code after that applied to everyone who always himself to affliction on individuals, endangering their lives by transmitting infection to them. This infection that harms their physical safety and at the same time citizens feel that they are illegal protection that guarantees them security, safety, and research. Thank you.
Thank you, Reika, for your presentation and participation. I thank them for their presentation and their participation in our Congress. And I'm finishing today's session of our Congress. Thank you for joining us. Our Congress will continue tomorrow. It will start 9 a.m. Turkish time. See you later. Thanks.